in the world. He's getting us out of both Iraq and Afghanistan. He has got health care passed. He got financial regulation passed, the stimulus, the bailouts. He's spending money like a drunken sailor. So there's an ideology behind all this. And what I say in The Roots of Obama's Rage is the ideology is one that he got from his dad, from Barack Obama Sr. Now, how do I know this? Because Obama in detail tells us in his own autobiography, which is titled Dreams from My Father, that he got his dreams or his aspirations from his father. His father was a radical, an African socialist, an anti-colonialist who came of age in Kenya while Kenya was fighting to be liberated from the British. And he had this broad anti-colonial ideology that the world is divided between the oppressors and the oppressed, and that within the oppressor countries of the West, there are these powerful constellations of power, the banks, the pharmaceutical companies, the investment, the insurance companies. And so I think Obama is on a mission to try to corral or control the private sector and also to lasso the American rogue elephant and pull it back. So it's his father's ideology adapted to the circumstances of today.
And for those who say, well, he only met him once and he was like 9 or 10 years old, you would say that whenever his name came up, Ann Dunham, which was the mother, only spoke glowingly and admiringly of Barack Hussein Obama Sr., and that Obama himself made a trip to Kenya and came back a changed man. And he said in his book, quote, "The dreams of the father are still alive in the son," unquote. So what he saw as a boy was reenacting what his father's view was of America and the West from Kenya.
Obama must say 50 times in his book that he formed his personality and his identity in the image of his father. Anybody who says he was not influenced by his father has simply not read Obama's own writing on the subject. Everyone who knows Obama well, his grandmother Sarah Obama told Newsweek, she says, "I look at him and I see all the same things I saw in his father. The dreams of the father are being realized in the son." So the people who know Obama, who are close to him, and Obama himself, all testify to the magnetic and enormous influence of Obama Sr. on Obama Jr.
So Obama Sr. saw America as a force of destruction in the world. Obama Sr. saw America's military as an instrument of economic blunder. He saw a company, a corporation, as an instrument for exploitation. And those were the well-known views of Obama Sr. And you have one of his writings from a journal in the 1965 called the East African Journal. And so when Obama, the boy, talks about his father, if you simply take the president's own words, which the media has refused to do, that provides context for what he's doing to Wall Street, what he's doing to American business, what he's doing to American entrepreneurs.
You know, Obama often says, "I'm spending money, but I'm going to stick the bill to the rich." He says the rich are not paying their fair share. Now, government data show that if you look at income taxes, the top 10% of people in America pay about 70% of all the taxes. That's a huge share. So what is the so-called fair share the rich should pay? Obama never says. If you look at his father's paper, Obama's father says that since the rich people are exploiters, we should have a tax rate that is up to 100%. In other words, we should take all their stuff. Why? Because his assumption is that the rich people got rich by looting everybody else. It's as if, Bill, you came to my house and took my furniture. What would be the tax rate, the appropriate tax rate for you? 100%, because it's not your furniture. It doesn't belong to you in the first place. So there's a very radical agenda by Barack Obama Sr. This anti-colonialist ideology is extremely illuminating in saying what Obama is doing in the White House, and that's why the White House is actually going crazy about this book. They've attacked me time and time again, the press secretary Robert Gibbs, and they keep distorting my argument. They keep saying, Dinesh is saying that Obama was not born in America. That has nothing to do with my argument. It's not a birther issue at all. I'm simply saying what Obama's saying, that he took his father's dream and is trying to implement it.
Do you think this president, I couldn't say this about even Clinton or Carter, I thought they had American values. They were values I may have disagreed with, but did you think Barack Hussein Obama, the president, shares the same values as other Americans?
Let me answer it this way. I don't want to say that he's anti-American because I do think that he thinks that colonialism is bad for America. So he's doing what he thinks is good for America. But here's an important point, and that is I am myself an immigrant to America. I grew up in Bombay, India. I came to America. I landed on the American mainland at the age of 17. And so while I'm a U.S. citizen, a part of me, my formative years, were in another country. Now, here's a fact that many people will find surprising. Barack Obama did not set foot on the mainland of the United States till he was 17. His formative years were in Hawaii, 4 years in Indonesia. He subsequently made a long trip to Pakistan and multiple trips to Africa. So in some senses, the all-American experience of baseball games and Little League and hamburgers and hot dogs, Obama's had a very different formative experience. His grandparents would take him to a shack where a former communist named Frank Marshall Davis would smoke dope and espouse radical theories. And little Obama would sit and listen to all this. And it was very influential on him because he writes about it in his book. Now, this is not a typical American experience. So I'm not saying Obama's anti-American. I'm simply saying that we are all trying to project American history onto this guy, and we're ignoring his own history.
The other thing was a simple thing, but it was illustrative of a larger point. During the campaign, he refused to wear an American flag pin because he didn't want to send the wrong messages. Even Carter, even Clinton understood the American flag was an all-American image. Carter grew up in this country. Clinton grew up in this country. They had a deep feeling of patriotism. I would never question the patriotism of Carter or Clinton. But why is it we had a presidential candidate who did not want to wear the American flag, and it didn't seem to hurt him politically?
Here's why. Because, first of all, in a way, from the point of view of anti-colonialist ideology, it used to be Europe that was conquering and looting the world. Now it's America. But if you think about what is the event that unleashed the American rogue elephant, it was 9/11. Think of it. America's been a superpower since World War II, but for a number of decades, the Soviet Union was the counterbalancing force. And then, once the Cold War ended, America became the sole superpower, but we still didn't do anything with that. It was 9/11 that basically made Americans say, okay, that's it, we're now going to use American power. And of course, American forces went to Afghanistan, went to Iraq. So I think for Obama, 9/11 is a horrific event and being a tragedy, but it's even more horrific in unleashing the American rogue elephant. Obama is trying to get us back to September 10th, and so to him, that flag worn on your sleeve, which, by the way, started at 9/11, it's a horrible symbol of American arrogance. So I think we're dealing with a very strange man in Obama. Remember, Obama's the most unknown guy ever to set foot in the White House. A very peculiar set of circumstances and some of his own very peculiar strengths. The appeal, for example, of a lot of whites who thought it would be really great to have an African-American president and heal some racial wounds. So some very specific circumstances brought this man in the White House, and only now, 2 years later, are we discovering who he really is.
And why did Obama choose Reverend Wright's Chicago church to join? 20 years he had his children baptized there. Why of all the churches in Chicago did he pick the Afrocentric Reverend Wright's church?
Because the core idea of anti-colonialism is that America is the menace and the rogue elephant in the world, and that the welfare of the formerly colonized countries is really what should be focused on. So here's Obama. He's walking outside Trinity Church, and he sees a big sign, Free South Africa. And he's super excited because here's an international theme that he can identify with, the oppressors and the oppressed. South Africa, of course, colonized by the English and the Dutch. And so he goes in the church and he sees an African guy with a dashiki who's talking about anti-colonialism. Not about race, but more about anti-colonialism. We misunderstand Jeremiah Wright if we think of him as a race guy. What he's really talking about is, he says, America bombed Libya. We killed Gaddafi's son. We bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. We invaded Grenada. We invaded Iraq, Afghanistan. So what's amazing is that here's a guy who's denouncing America. I think Obama identified with those anti-colonial themes. And yet when the controversy erupted, Obama, in a very sly way, was able to change the topic by saying, oh, you know what, we've never had a discussion of race relations in this country, even though Jeremiah Wright's radicalism had nothing to do with race relations. It was a denunciation of the evils of American foreign policy. So Obama is very clever at being able to, when a controversy hits him, change the topic and use, if you will, his transcendent racial status to say, okay, well, let's get above this. So Obama is he's a great political artisan, but in some ways the deep roots of his ideology are only now being uncovered.
Well, the book is The Roots of Obama's Rage. It is unbelievable. And if you as an American want insight into the mind of Barack Hussein Obama, this is the book to read, The Roots of Obama's Rage. Dinesh D'Souza. Dinesh, you're a great American.
Thank you. It's been good to be on the show.
God bless America. Let's continue with more on 700 WL.